as John calls it, a snot bubble to shoot out of my nose.
Fantastic.
This might not be a podcast appropriate story, but
it's probably going to be the main tease.
Yeah. And so in that moment, I was like, oh man, this is weird. And he's like, hey buddy, and the only John Gaffigan can, like, he leans in close.
Serious,
He leans close and goes, don't even be embarrassed about that. That's fine. This interview's going great.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whenever you may be listening, and welcome to Latitude, the 43 North podcast. I'm your host, digital media manager here at 43 North, Nate Benson. Thank you so much for listening on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher Radio, Google Play. However you listen to podcasts, thank you. This week is episode 50. That's right, this podcast is now middle-aged. And I couldn't think of a better guest when I think middle-aged than Dan Greene. Former operations manager here at 43 North and now chief operating officer at Dive Pool Systems / Formarum, a 2016 43 North winner. But before we jump into that, one quick house cleaning item. March 28th, 6 to 8 p.m. It's a live edition of this podcast here at the 43 North Incubator featuring Iba Masood, 2017 43 North co-founder of Terra.ai or Terra AI. It's an artificial intelligence company doing wonderful things for companies like Ford. So you don't want to miss out. It's a live edition of the podcast. There's going to be food, there's going to be drink, there's going to be conversation, Q&A from the audience, and seats are limited. So head on over to 43north.org and reserve your ticket now. There's also an Eventbrite page. There's also Facebook, social media. However you find us, I guarantee you'll find a link for that podcast. And reserve your seat. It's going to be limited. It's going to be fun. March 28th, 6 to 8 p.m. here at the 43 North Incubator, 640 Ellicott Street, Buffalo, New York, and sweet old downtown. It's going to be great. Can't wait to see you here. And hopefully I have a surprise or two. I don't know. Now that I've promised a surprise, I have to figure one out. So I'm going to go do that. But before we do, let's jump into this week's podcast with Dan Greene. We have a lot of great things to talk about operationally. So let's not waste any more time with me and get right to it with Dan Greene. Dan, good morning.
Good
afternoon,
morning,
whenever this is airing, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
So, how you doing?
I like that intro because it lets me eat the candy that I just bought off of your daughter. And be like, yeah, it's nice.
She's a shark.
Sure, whatever
Yeah.
time it is, this is appropriate candy time. That's what time this is airing.
Exactly. She is a budding entrepreneur and going to camp and just suckered you out of $10, which was fantastic.
Anybody who's got $10, $15, $20 to spare for the best artisanal, handcrafted chocolate in the world.
Yeah, she's got a lot of time on her hands,
Yeah.
too. Like, she's so busy, but yet had the time to individually wrap 5 different varieties of
Go
candy
to
bars.
Emmeline Benson, everybody.
Yeah.
That's the best chocolate I've ever tasted. Worth every penny.
Yeah. Oddly tastes like Niagara candy as well, but that's here nor there.
Yeah, well, someone, proprietary information
She's
was
stealing
maybe
IP.
leaked somewhere.
She's stealing IP left and right. Fantastic. So for those who don't know you, which I don't think is really anybody in this town, Mr. 40 under 40.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do?
Dan Greene. I am the COO of Formarum, a past 43 North winner.
Wait a minute.
I know.
Wait a minute.
Last week you knew me as director of operations at 43 North.
It's like peak operations with you.
Yes, it's always operations with me.
You just love telling people what to do and how to run their businesses, don't you?
It's a little bit of that. It's also just a little bit of being the pick up everything else guy. Like, I don't have any real skills.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like,
we didn't want to tell you that.
if it doesn't fall squarely in the bucket of someone else's like hard skill set, then I'm there to be like, oh yeah, I'll try to piece together an answer and just sort of wing it and figuring out whatever else that is.
We'll get to Formarum in 40th North in a minute, but talk a little bit about your background because I think it's fascinating. You were one of those folks who left town for college, thought you were going to be away, and then came back, right?
Yeah, grew up in North Buffalo and headed out of town for college, moved to Chicago after that, went to law school, went to New York City to practice law, eventually made it down to a clerkship in the Southern District of Florida, and then came back to Buffalo for an interesting opportunity again as a lawyer after about 12 or 13 years outside of Buffalo. And I can't say that I knew for sure I was coming back. I wasn't one of the diehards who said, I'm leaving, but I'm definitely coming back. I was sort of following opportunity and continued to just catch breaks and be in the right place at the right time. Came back to Buffalo, I guess 6 years ago now. Practicing attorney, doing a number of different things, but primarily focused in federal court defense work. Caught a couple breaks in some trials, and after 3 years back in Buffalo, a great attorney by the name of Kevin Spiller stopped me on the corner of the road, and he'd known me since I was in kindergarten with his kids. And he said, this was after I was a part of a win at trial in federal court. And he said, your record will never be better than it is right now. You should retire. And we had a hearty laugh, and then he kept going, about his day. And I was like, really? Yeah. And I was like, actually, wait a second.
They don't hand out those wins in federal court very often, do they?
Yeah. So I think the U.S. Attorney's Office conviction rate's well over 90%. And I was, again, right place, right time. Yeah. Great attorneys to work with and learn from in the courtroom. I just played a small role, but yeah. So after that sort of stuck in my brain. I was like, what else is there? This is really
my 1,000 time to go.
It was just my George Costanza moment of I'm out. This is the high point. And had some friends from college who were starting companies or joining startups out on the West Coast and in New York City, saw what they were doing. We're chipping in some legal help here and there for them, and thought, that looks like a lot of fun.
So there was the potential of leaving again.
There was. There's an opportunity in the Bay Area. There's another one in Chicago, and I've got siblings in Chicago and in New York City, parents in Buffalo. I said, Mom, Dad, it's been a great stay. I'm on my way out, and the single tear rolled down.
Why would you leave us?
They were extremely supportive. They were very supportive, but I thought I can see what else is in Buffalo before making this decision. So I'm comparing apples to apples,
sure.
Not being a lawyer in Buffalo versus being an entrepreneur out west. So sure enough, 43 North was growing a team at that point. I sat down with John Gavigan for one of the shorter interviews of my life, and we had a good exchange.
How many words did you get in that interview?
Great question.
5 or 6?
Yeah, I laughed at one point and I snorted in a way that caused as John calls it, a snot bubble to shoot out of my nose.
Fantastic.
This might not be a podcast appropriate story, but
it's probably gonna be the main tease.
Yeah. And so in that moment, I was like, oh man, this is weird. And he's like, hey buddy, and the way only John Gavigan can, he leans in close.
Serious,
he leans close. He goes, don't even be embarrassed about that. That's fine. This interview's going great. Don't worry about that. We're all going to be vulnerable. We're all going to be vulnerable. It's okay, pal. It's okay. Oh, it's okay, buddy.
You're like, I really just need a Kleenex.
I was like, John, I've been, screamed at by more judges in the last 6 years and sort of made to feel like a shell of a human in public, in front of juries, in front of my clients and
room
defendants.
Of 100 people. Yeah.
Exactly. I was like, the snot bubble in my nose, unfortunately, is not
a low point for me.
Yeah. And so that was more or less the way he's described my interview process. Now I describe my interview process with 43 North ever since. So after that, joined his operations here and spent 3 years building out the incubation program and building out the selection process for the companies. And then, as I said, sort of figuring out what else is in operations for 43 North, from keeping the lights on,
taking out the trash, filling up the soda machine, all the important things we need done here.
It's that rule of the little things in your day that make the big differences sort of thing. So we recognize that with startups, it's as true as with anyone. If they've got printer paper, that matters a lot more to them more often than the big names that we can sort of throw in front of them as who we want to introduce them to.
So you left us. That's how I'm going to throw that question out there. You decided to leave us and join past 43 North winner Formarum as COO. So walk me through why.
Yeah. This is probably an evaluation that a lot of folks have to go through, because there's a job that provides a certain level of security and growth opportunities. And then there's startups that you don't know. They're usually smaller staff, limited runway. They're trying to limit their burn rate, so they can't quite provide the same security. And I got the question a lot throughout the past couple of years, when are you going to join one of these startups? When are you going to join one of these startups? And so I started evaluating it, because I didn't think it was that simple of a yes, no sort of situation. It's, what stage is the company at? What are they doing? And do I believe in what they're doing? What skill sets do I offer? Do they need those skill sets? And then what are the sort of the values of the leadership there? And do I fully buy in on that? Because it's a marriage, right? And it's a high risk one. So I've had some informal conversations over the last 3 years, some more formal conversations. And with Syed and Mo at Formarum, there was just a lot of alignment across all of those spaces. So that was a moment for me of, oh yeah, if we're going to go down, I don't mind going down swinging with these guys. They're ultra bright, extremely driven. Everyone talks about who's working the hardest, but they're not even. It's not even work for them. It's just sort of like breath. Like every time,
every living moment,
everything just turns back. Yeah, exactly. Into what's going to work for the company. What are the next steps? What are the implications? And thinking things out and acting them out. So it's great.
Playing devil's advocate, and this would be, I guess, judgment on my job as the person who's supposed to tell these stories. For those who don't know Formarum, give us kind of the quick pitch of what they do.
Right. So Formarum is a Canadian company. Their American subsidiary Dive Pool Systems is the first do-it-yourself salt pool system. So anyone who owns an existing chlorine pool wants to quickly turn it into a salt system because they're tired of all the tinkering with multiple chemicals, that weird warehouse shed that everyone has in their backyard that owns a pool that's like full of
hoses and chemicals.
Exactly, and that keeps you out of the pool, or when you're in the pool makes your eyes turn bright red. Yep. It's doing away with all of that with a quick install on some PVC piping. Same day you get it, you can put it in. You don't need an electrician to put it in. So
just need a saw and some PVC glue, and you're good to go.
Exactly, and that all comes in the box. So it's really
easy peasy.
Exactly. We're making it as easy as possible for retrofitting the 6.9 million pools in the United States that are chlorine right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Small opportunity.
It's funny, man. I was talking to someone the other day, and it's like, why pools? Like, did you grow up with pools? Like, are you a swimmer? I was like, no. Have you seen me swim? It's a maybe a not interesting market for a lot of folks, but then you do the math and you look at it and you realize it's enormous and there's an opportunity here. And the opportunity is to make it a use case for this self-powering turbine technology.
Yeah.
And that's what Formarum owns, and that's their IP, and that's where Dive Pool Systems can show how significant it is to have a turbine that can work as energy capture in a 2-inch pipe, and then apply that across all instrumentation in major fields and markets, and turn that energy capture into something really significant.
Yeah, the pool aspect is just let's get started. Let's start perfecting the technology, and then scale into every industry.
Right. Which, no oversimplifying it, as I've been losing sleep on this with these guys. Like, you realize just how trying to take a big chunk of the pool market is an enormous task unto itself. Yeah. So
because like any industry, there's giants and manufacturers who've been doing it for 50, 60 years, so you have to beat that. Have fun with that. Your little startup.
I keep thinking back to, I think, Jordan Levy leading a conversation with our year 2 winners, and he said, you don't need to be the 1-ton gorilla. Sometimes you can just be the 500-pound ape and do pretty well and have a significant impact on a market. And so I'm trying to, on those days where I'm sort of scratching my head and pulling my hair out and, thinking back to why did I stop being an attorney? I'm also thinking it's all right. We can be the 500-pound ape, at least for the foreseeable future.
So we talked about kind of what operationally you did here at 43 North. Now you're transitioning to a very small team, just a few guys. Your former, Dive is building a manufacturing facility in Cheektowaga. You're helping kind of oversee that. So talk about, that transition in terms of like managing small teams. Like what are you fundamentally kind of now building at Formarum?
Yeah. Thanks for including all my talking points. I'm clearly,
I know your sweet spots.
Yeah.
I know your sweet spots.
I'm like, all right, Cheektowaga, 7,000 square feet. Need some assembly techs. It's bringing me back to that first year at 43 North, which was building the process, the protocol, and the steps, and sort of then analyzing what's working and what's not working. I would love input from other people as far as on a small team, sort of what the point of titles are. Because on any given day, they shift dramatically, and so much of it is just based around a team that has the ability to strategize together, to execute together, and communicate well. So is this a call-in podcast? Could we have people call
we
in
can
and
call
say,
in,
yeah, and tell me sort of what the difference is? Because oftentimes there's a lot of bleed through on who's doing what. It's really just how we're dividing up the time across our days to make sure we're focused on those three big buckets.
So small facility you're building out there in Cheektowaga, huh?
Yeah, we just put together all the assembly stations, and so it feels a little less daunting. It's
like, this can function.
Yeah. There's not as much like echo effect when you walk into the back room.
Really cavernous.
It used to be a bakery. I'm pretty disappointed it doesn't still smell like a bakery.
Or is there a potential for you guys to split off into a bakery?
I open every meeting with that. When what are we doing? Yeah, what are we doing? What are we doing here? It's great. It's what I think 43 North was built for, and it's great that the opportunity has come to Western New York to be able to say, here's a company that 43 North invested in, and now they're building out their space in Western New York. And they came from Canada. They recognize the advantages to being in Canada. Canada is still supporting the R&D side of things, but really when it comes to assembly, tech, and distribution, that's all going to be right here. So, and the support from the community has been fantastic. The number of people who just in the last week or so who I've reached out to since making the transition and really the opening line is very similar. Like, I believe all startups need help. I think any startup that says they don't need help is setting themselves up for trouble. Yeah. So I come to you to ask for help about, anything and everything, from the manufacturing side to the financial side to, do you have a free couple hours to put together some pool systems? Come help us out.
Can you be a beta tester? Can you look at this marketing material? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly. And that's I think one of the keys to extending our runway and making ourselves a better team is to gain more understanding from people who've been there and done that, learned the tough lessons, and figured out the best practices.
Now you're overseeing, or at least helping the guys oversee, kind of building the team out. Now you guys are hiring a few different positions. What are some of the kind of the challenges with something like that? Coming onto a new team yourself, now you're kind of the de facto culture builder on top of, operations too.
Yeah, good question, man.
Every once in a while I hit one out of the park. That's a top 10 one here on the podcast.
Hopefully the coffee kicks in soon enough for me to answer this decently. I value, again, folks who can ask for help and folks who also are solution oriented across any industry and any space. And I think that is why I was so attracted to this team, why Mo and Syed are so impressive to work with, is because as smart as they are and as accomplished as they are as engineers, they're very quick to say, I don't know what this is, but here's what I think the solution will be. Who can help validate our answers, or verify this? And I think that's the culture to build on across everyone from the guy who's first starting out with us who doesn't know anything about pools, manufacturing, or finances. Did I just describe myself?
Yeah, literally describe yourself. Yeah.
Or somebody who's coming off of a production line after 30 years and gets it all. It still has to boil down to, if you're closed off, if you're siloed, if you're afraid to ask for help, if you're afraid to acknowledge mistakes, missteps, or lack of understanding, then you're a real liability to a small team.
What I admire so much about startups in general, and especially some of the ones that have come through 43 North, they don't have the time to linger and dwell on something. Something's got to get done. A decision needs to be made. Who do I need to talk to make that decision for guidance? Because I don't want to make the wrong decision, but I don't have the time to have 5-hour meetings and committees to do all this.
Yeah. This is, when I was with 43 North, operations and being sort of part of the incubation process and the mentoring process, was realizing how quickly that's true for our companies. They don't want to wait for anything. And telling them you'll have an answer for it in a day or two can be a lifetime.
Enough,
because oftentimes there is that trap of you live and die with every day and the successes or failures or setbacks of that day. And certainly at 43 North, you don't want to contribute to those. So you want to be as responsive as possible. And you don't want to be a bottleneck. You want to get answers. You want to help facilitate meetings, introductions, whatever it is for somebody who needs to get a problem solved. And now I'm living that on the other side of things, where someone says, I can maybe get back to you on Friday or Monday of July 2020, and I'm like, I got to get out there and source a different answer or figure out something in the interim, because that's exactly it. If you're if you're slow in your response or delayed, you're going to be left out of figuring out that solution for a startup. So you're spot on.
In everything I've seen, the successful people have wanted to help too. So it's like startups coming, they have a question, they need guidance. They don't have to wait, for that guidance, or they don't have to wait, a month or whatever the case may be to have a meeting about something. It can just be a quick phone call, or they know somebody who's going to call somebody, or it's that typical Buffalo thing. There's always that connection with people.
Yeah, I think that there's a number of folks in Buffalo who, despite what they're doing with their time, continue to impress me that they just will take your phone call. And it's to your point, it's not about setting a meeting. It's not necessarily about tons of email back and forth. As important as those can be, it's a 5-minute phone call to Eric Reich to say, I got this problem, what do you think of it? Oh, hang on, let me call you back with this person's information. Thanks, Eric, talk to you later. Okay, I'm going back to a board meeting for the 200-person company I currently run, but happy to help you. And you're like, no, I sense sarcasm, but thank you. So
thanks for that, Eric.
Yeah, but it's so significant and it's so important, and that's something I think that 43 North has shown a lot of folks, is how being quick to the punch can make the difference.
So when you were negotiating with the Formarum team, how big of an impact was your 40 under 40 title? And I can't believe you sipped right before that.
I thought maybe your first reference would be.
No.
Thanks for coming back to that.
I love the great photo of you on stage and the hands. It was just this is when the hazing begins.
I just
left me, by the way.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, I waited a full 20 minutes.
The joke here is, as you know, I don't know what to do with my hands most of the time if I'm not like typing or writing. Or holding a phone, and so when it's picture time, they're just totally lost to me. It's like, do I stick them up in the armpits? Do I Mr. Burns them right in front of me? Put them behind my head like I'm being arrested?
There's some great photos from 2017 finals of you on stage, and it's just like, what's he doing? Man?
Yeah,
put them in the pocket, buddy.
Do they go in the pockets?
Put them in the pocket. Yeah.
Here's an example, completely off topic. When I worked in New York City, I worked with a great staff, and we were hanging out one Friday after work at like a happy hour, and my staff was all women who were significantly older than me, but this was their time to like kick back before they went home to their families.
Sure.
And so I'm just there like kidding around with them, and we're sort of sitting around a table, half dancing, half not, and they're all dying laughing, and I'm like, guys, what are you laughing so much at? And I'm like, well, Dan, you're a young man, you're single, you're out there, but when you dance, you've got to close your mouth and put your hands below your nipples. It looks like a bear is attacking us when you're open mouth, hands in the air, dancing around. And I was like, fair point. That's a life lesson I'll never forget. Yeah. So, but again, a testament to the fact I don't know what to do with my hands ever.
One hand in the pocket, the other hand, doing the thumb, the point.
The Bill Clinton.
The Bill Clinton.
Really.
Or just, something, or just both hands in the pocket. That's fine. The occasional, hand gesture's fine.
Okay.
But anything with the hands together, don't make the triangle, clasp.
The clasp?
No
clasp? All right.
Now you can do the self clap, and I think this is a big thing. Like if you start the applause for yourself, great job, me, in the audience will then kick in.
We call that the John Gavigan.
Yeah, it's a John Gavigan.
So when I'm standing next to him on the old 43 North stages, it's tough because he's already clapping, so then he's beating me to it.
Hello, me. Great. Yeah. Oh my God, John,
welcome.
right enough already.
Yeah.
So you've seen kind of the growth here, and back to seriousness. Mm-hmm. You've seen the growth of everything. What's kind of your assessment on kind of the way things are? Because you worked closely with the companies coming through 43 North. Now you're getting in the thick of it yourself. You obviously believe in kind of the startup ecosystem. Otherwise, you wouldn't be you'd go back to being a silly lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Some of the smarter, more accomplished individuals who I named earlier, I think I'm just going to steal from them and say it's about that risk-taking, realizing what's available to you, and what's a real risk and what's not, which is not to minimize anything. There's been some significant life choices I've made through the wonderful support of my fiance. Plug.
Yeah, nice.
But that's what it'll take to continue to grow this ecosystem, is folks who step off the curb because they see an opportunity that they want to take, understand the risk, but still pursue it anyways and go for it, even though there are more secure jobs waiting for them elsewhere. So to steal again from Jordy and Eric.
Nice.
I don't know.
Well, I'm obviously not known for being serious ever, but I truly admire, what you've decided to do and get in the thick of it with Formarum. I think it takes a lot of, like you said, risk. It takes, I think, courage. I think it takes, a great mindset, obviously a great fiance and a great family to be behind you and what you're doing. I'm going to miss working with you every day because you and I we're good buddies here. I am looking forward to driving down the 33 to go to Johnny Rockets with you.
That's right. I do all my meetings in the Galleria Mall. we're based
fine establishments.
Yeah. Anyone unfortunate enough to listen to this should know that our place is right behind the Galleria Mall. So I've got a whole new understanding of like Union Road, Walden Road.
Yeah.
I didn't know that George Urban was a real place.
Yeah.
Now I'm like all over it.
And now you want all the George Urban history.
Oh yeah. I've just got so much that I'm learning out there. It's amazing. A fraction of it is about business.
Yeah. But thank you for all the work you did here at 43 North, and cheers to you for taking the dive into a startup. Thank you.
Well done.
That's 2 home runs. I'm done.
Yeah. Wow. You brought your A game, and I'm C-minusing it all the way through.
Okay, buddy.
Right.
Thanks again. We'll catch up with you guys down the road.
Thanks, Nate.
Cheers. I want to thank Dan Greene so much for joining me on the podcast this week and being such a delight to work with every single day for the last year and change I've been here. And I'm not being sarcastic about that. I know I'm known for my sarcasm and wonderful wit, but I have to say it's been a pleasure working with Dan, and I wish him all the best at Dive Pool Systems /Formarum. I know they're going to do great things in the space that they're working on, and I know Dan's thrilled to be working in Cheektowaga. Hey, March 28th, 6 to 8 p.m., Latitude Live, featuring Iba Masood, 2017 winner, co-founder of Terra AI, an artificial intelligence company doing remarkable things in that space. Iba's got a fantastic story. She grew up in Pakistan, came to the United States to start a company, and here she is in Buffalo, New York, doing awesome work. How do you see this? Well, you have to head on over to 43 North social media pages, 43north.org, or search 43 North on Eventbrite and reserve your free ticket. It's free. There's going to be free food, free drink, free conversation, free Q&A, and bad jokes from me. So really, it's going to be just a fantastic night. March 28th, 6 to 8 p.m. here at the 43 North Incubator, 640 Ellicott Street, downtown Buffalo. It's going to be a great time, and I hope to see you here. Thanks again for listening. For 43 North, I'm Nate Benson, and we'll see you at the next one.